to This Week in Metropolis. Transmission will begin shortly.
Yep, King P here.
And SteelyO7.
And welcome to another episode of This Week in Metropolis. First of all, big thanks to Wazza, who came and spoke with us last week. Had a great conversation about food and sort of different things related to it. Please do check him out, Eat with Wazza on Instagram. All the links are in the previous episode. We will be having some more guests later on in this season, so do look out for that. We'll be announcing those nearer the time.
I don't know about you, but after speaking to Warren last week, I just came off of the episode really hungry.
Starving.
Yeah.
And especially every time I look at what he's cooking and think, well, I don't know, maybe my diet's a bit basic compared to, you know.
If you haven't, I know you have, but if you haven't seen it, the chicken shawarma wrap, my days, that looked amazing.
Well, shawarma is Avengers endorsed as well, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Which is the first time I ever heard of shawarma.
Yeah,
so,
me too. Yeah, so that was good. Well, let's kick off. It is just us this week. So what's caught your eye this week in the world, Matthew?
Well, the first thing is that there's a bit of an ethical sort of thing with this. In the US military, they use dogs for sort of many things, sort of, you know, sniffing out drugs, sniffing out bombs, that sort of stuff. So it's not new that they're actually using dogs. But what they are proposing to do, or what they're trialing, is actually putting AR goggles onto the dogs. So when you see a picture of it, it's basically a dog with this sort of vest on and a wire and proper goggles on it, or doggles, as I like to call them. And it's basically so you don't have to. If you think of in a sort of airport or whatever, there's normally a dog with a handler, isn't there, and they're sniffing out things. But it's so that they can communicate with the dog, but have the dog remote as such, so they can send it into an area and communicate to it via this sort of AR display. And I'm guessing, I'm not sure exactly the sort of specifics, but I'm guessing it would show it particular things that it needs to look for and things like that.
And also relay all that information back to some guys in some swanky, you know,
just
hideout.
A plush hideout somewhere while they're drinking their espressos.
Or in the back of a van.
Or in the back of a van. But that's the thing. I guess that's it, isn't it? Is rather than thinking, I don't know, the dog's barking because it's found something, is that they can literally see what's going on.
Yeah,
but I don't know about you. I just look at it as I said sort of like an ethical thing. It's, you see dogs being trained and they enjoy that sort of stuff, don't they? Like they're challenging that. But when you're strapping it with, you know, tech, is that crossing the boundary?
I don't know. You know, the thing is, we've talked about it on this show. We've probably talked about it when we was on the Out of the Blank podcast about animals with equipment strapped to them and things like that. And certainly in America, that seems to be. I'm sure it happens elsewhere as well. But I mean, I've got 2 dogs. I ain't strapping equipment to them, but but you know, I mean, these dogs, like you said there, some of these dogs are trained for that reason. It's a bit like, you know, a guide dog is trained in a certain way. If it was unethical to do that, then I guess it wouldn't be done. I'm not saying it doesn't happen for them same reasons, but I can understand where you're coming from, because even the thought of a dog with some sort of goggles on is just a weird kind of image in my head anyway. It sounds like something you'd see in a movie. And is it affecting how the dog is seeing these things as well? I mean, that's for me. I mean, is it giving them night vision? That's what I want to know.
That'd be incredible, wouldn't it? They apparently already wear goggles in certain circumstances because they to protect their eyes in the same way as a human would wear goggles. So it's not going to be all of a sudden you're come here, boy, and popping them on. They've already got a certain element. They're used to that sort of thing, and that's it. It's sort of you worry that the dog uses its smell and all these sort of things, and that if you're then feeding it information on a heads-up display, what's that
doing to their minds?
Yeah, exactly. It's going to change their evolution, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, surely they're not operating kind of software with their eyes. Just, you know, I mean, that's going to look funny on this video with me doing that. But they're not kind of, it's purely as a way of being able to for someone else to see what they're seeing, as opposed to it being some sort of tech software that they're using in that front, surely.
Well, who knows? I mean, apparently it's now being funded. It was started in 2017, and they've started making prototypes. The current versions, because they are wired, apparently they do need a handler. But in the future, it would be the case that you wouldn't need a handler. But they have secured funding. It will be going to the next stage. So,
birds with goggles on.
If you think, though, in the next stage, and we always go back to sort of, you know, neural link and those sort of things. You think Elon had things in a pig's brain, didn't he? That's then when it sort of raises big ethical issues of, okay, well, it's a lot easier, but let's not slap a goggles on this dog. Let's you know,
something in his head,
go straight into its head, and then it's all good. We can link up to that. But
so long as it doesn't mean that all of a sudden we're going to start walking around the streets and seeing animals, or go into a farm or a zoo and seeing animals all with goggles on, like every breed of animal.
Well, have we spoke about before what they were doing in Russia with the cows?
No.
We said about that?
Maybe we did, but I can't recall.
There was this thing. I'll have to sort of find the actual story, but it was to do with the cows were based in like a really awful place, like rather than this lush green field, they're in some terrible like industrial estate or something like that. And they literally were putting VR goggles on the cows so that they saw beautiful green fields, and they were happy and would produce more milk or whatever the thing was.
Really?
Honestly, yeah,
that's incredible.
That's a real thing. But again, would you? I don't know. I guess it's a human sort of that the cow maybe doesn't know any different. You don't know whether the cow knows different or not, but it's just weird. You know,
I mean, I was just going to say, VR can that could work for anyone, really, couldn't it? I mean, if it's working with cows, imagine what it could do. Yeah. And if you look at that situation, it's helped the cow as well, like to make. If then
you could think, don't put the cow on the industrial estate.
Well, there is that.
Have you know, put it in a field.
Yeah, it's true. But if you think about kind of everywhere's different. I mean, where we live in Norfolk is a lot different to where we grew up in Essex. Yeah. You know, and London is a lot more industrial. It's more kind of roads and less green fields than we've got here. We're out in kind of East Anglia. So I mean, not that we saw cows roaming the streets in London. That's the difference, I guess. But from a farming perspective, I mean, in Russia, I don't know what the condition. I've never been. I mean, my dad actually worked in Russia many years ago, and I can't remember what he said it was like. I just remember the impression that I got from when he told me is that it was very kind of makes me think of like down and dingy, kind of dark, sort of probably a bit like the weather we've got at the moment, kind of grey, very kind of just really eerie, kind of doesn't make me think of kind of green fields. And like, so do you know what I mean? So if there isn't that necessarily that green space where the farmers live or where people want cows for fresh milk and all that stuff, then maybe it's a benefit for them in that respect, even though they're not. I mean, the only thing is, they'll see all this grass, which surely they would want to eat.
Yeah.
So what are they eating? They're just eating dirt off the floor.
Your head on it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's weird. It's like, to me, it's plugging into the Matrix. You know,
Mm.
it literally, isn't it?
It is.
You think that this thing is here, but it's not. It's scary times. And with the dog thing, I just think, again, something we fairly often. All these like Boston Dynamics who make the Spot robot that is essentially a dog with a camera on it.
Mm.
Do you need a real dog? I guess the dog can smell and it has the extra sort of, you know,
Senses and all that.
senses, doesn't it? But, you know, you could replace an animal by putting a robot something in there, couldn't you?
I think ultimately that's what it will
Mm.
get to at some stage. But it's interesting that you mentioned Neuralink and things like that there, because a story that I've seen this week is it's not to do with Neuralink, by the way, but it's Adobe Photoshop. They've kind of got a new version that's in development or will be coming out soon, which just kind of blew my mind when I was reading about it. And the main feature that they're kind of trying to promote at the moment and sell to people is it's called AI neural filters.
Mm.
And have you heard about this?
I've followed Adobe with these different things.
Yeah. So basically, you could edit a picture so that there's like a filter on there that's for like age, which I know is probably quite common now with different apps and things. I mean, we've joked about on Snapchat with age filters that make us look really old, make us look young, and all that, and they're incredible. But when you think of something as good as Adobe when it comes to Photoshop stuff, age you'd probably go, oh yeah, it's quite common now. But even expression, right? So you can change the expression from things like joy, surprised, anger. You could,
That's awesome.
You could, if you wanted to edit a picture to tweak it slightly, if someone was wearing glasses in a picture, you could edit the glasses out with ease.
It's amazing.
And one of the other things which was quite crazy was if you had two pictures and one person had makeup on, you could take the makeup from that person and put it on someone else.
That is wild, isn't it?
I mean, it's just interesting, and for me, it's kind of like it goes into kind of where could this go? Like, it's fun. It could be a fun thing, you know. Like I said before, we can joke about on all the different. I mean, Facebook's got their own different filters. Instagram has. We mentioned Snapchat, but for me, I'm kind of thinking about kind of the dark side of what it could do. You know what I mean? Especially with counterfeits and things like that. I mean, you could.
What's real and what isn't? Is what it comes to, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and you think about like the age filter. I mean, I don't know what this kind of retails at when you buy it as a product or whatever, but if a youngster, or when I say a youngster, someone, I mean, in America, the drinking age is what, 21?
21, I think, yeah.
18 in the UK. I mean, if you're 16 or 18 or 19 in the States, and you manage to get hold of it, I mean, it's going to be easy to just kind of tweak a picture so you look that bit. Oh, I mean, just to show your ID, you know, and create something. This is all the things that I kind of think like, it's clever, but is it possibly detrimental in other ways?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
See, I'm torn in the same way. It's not. I have this weird sort of excitement about the fact that you could create. We do it to a certain extent with our artwork. We create things that aren't real, and like I'll slap. Fair enough, with our sort of stuff, we tend to use a cartoon face or whatever. But there's been stuff that we've messed around with where I put your face on something, and as long as you get the lighting right and things like that, you can do a fairly convincing job of it. But things just literally allow you to create something that doesn't exist. And I've not seen these particular filters, but I've seen a lot of the stuff where if you want to separate someone, like if I've got a picture of you and you're standing in front of a wall, there are really clever things where you can, it will know how to separate you from, like it will select you from that image no matter what's behind it. It'll pick up your hair, so you don't have to. So you won't have like a Lego hair where you've been edited. It will, you know, get the fine sort of bits of hair if you had long hair or whatever. and you can put yourself into anything, you know, and very convincingly. Or I've seen things where on video that Adobe do where I think there was a guy riding his bike down this sort of highway, and it was like a mountain road sort of thing, and there was a car there, and it uses AI to get rid of the car. And so it then looks like that this person's riding along and they've got the road to themselves and stuff. And it is all machine learning. It's all AI, and it calculates, right, that bit needs to go or whatever. It's incredible, absolutely incredible how much power you can have with it. And I do have a sort of a perverse thing about creating it in a weird way. It's not this extreme, but it's like creating life. Like you're creating something completely new, and
but it
doesn't exist.
It's a bit
Amazing.
like we've talked about the deep fakes and things like that before, you know, and it's kind of crossover
It's the
into
same
that
sort of thing. Yeah, because the technology that the deepfake technology is a similar thing, but algorithm, like when the machine learning is basically the same as what Hollywood movies do. When you see Iron Man and he lifts his thing up and Robert Downey Jr.'s face is there and things like that, it's the same idea that they use, and it's the same for Adobe. It's that sort of process of working out what should be there and what shouldn't be there, and merging the two, which is incredible. But I completely welcome it, but I don't know. It's hard. How do you police this sort of thing?
Yeah.
As well. There's a website, I can't remember what it's called, but I have sort of downloaded things from it just out of curiosity, where it generates people that don't exist by AI. So I will have to find the website, because it's amazing. There are all these pictures, and they look like pictures that have come from LinkedIn or something like that, but they're not real people. And you look at it, you think that's a real person. And some of them have a bit of a tell, like there'll be a bit of a distortion around the ear or something where it's not quite understood what it's doing. But some look so convincing. And if you had something like that and then added, you take that image and then you put it somewhere else or whatever, you can. The danger, I think, is people creating completely fake identities, or online. You could create a completely fake
profile on something, or definitely, exactly. And use that to
con people in whatever way, which is the frightening thing. But weirdly, one thing that I was looking at recently, which isn't on, it is very similar, but I was looking yesterday. A lot of software now is adding some sort of AI element to it. And I was looking, there was a DJ, there's an app called DJ, DJAY, by a company called Algorithm. And they do iPad apps. And it's now got this thing in it. I can't remember what they call it, but basically you can load a song into it and you can completely separate the parts. So you can completely separate the vocals from the bass line, from the drums, and it does it perfectly. So you can strips into layers, but so you just tell it, right, I only want the drums from that, and you can filter the drums out, and then you could put another song in and say, well, I want the vocals from that. It matches it by key, it matches the tempo, it removes whatever you want from that thing in real time as well. It's not like you have to press a button, wait for it to do it. It literally does it. It's so clever. Things like that are completely changing creative processes from what they used to be.
It's really interesting.
It's fascinating.
Really interesting.
And I love the fact that it's available for anyone.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think last week or a couple of weeks ago, it's important that these things are equally available, not available just to the richest or the highest bidder as such. Some kid at home can do this stuff.
Yeah, but play about. Well, no, but that's it, and play about with it, and could create something, or
incredible. Yeah.
No, I agree.
Well, on a technology note again, and I guess as well, it's a similar thing in terms of everyone being equal and sort of righting the wrongs of the world as such, but also one with an ethical thing. Is there a hacking group which are called Dark Side Hackers? Not anyone I'd heard of before. Have were boasting this week that basically they had stolen a load of money from very large organisations. I don't know. I don't think it says specifically what the sort of organisations were. They've just said that they claim they only target large, profitable companies with their ransomware attacks. So that's basically you can't access your computer until you pay us a load of money. Attacks and hold IT organisations sort of systems hostage until the ransom is paid. So they've done this with a load of big organisations, extorted money out of them, but rather than keeping the money for themselves, they've given it to charity. So,
like a Robin Hood
exactly
kind of scenario.
That's so a charity called Children International, they posted a receipt for, and a charity called the Water Project, and they donated, I think it was sort of $10,000 to each of these organisation or each of these charities. The issue is the charities have said, well, we can't really have that money because that's been taken by not in the correct manner as such, unlawfully. But the hackers had good intentions. What would you think in terms of that?
I mean, it is a modern day Robin Hood scenario, which is good to some extent, but it's the way it's been done. I mean, and you could say the same about Robin Hood essentially, but and that was the question I was going to actually ask you was, could the charities actually accept it? So you've kind of already answered that.
Apparently, they used a service called the Giving Block, which isn't one I've heard of before, which is used by 6 or 7 different non-profits from around the world, including Saving the Children, Rainforest Foundation, and She's the First. It describes itself as an online as the only non-profit specific solution for accepting cryptocurrency donations. So they donated it in Bitcoin was how they sort of got the money. But this company was set up in 2018 to offer cryptocurrency millionaires the ability to take advantage of a huge tax incentive to donate Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies.
Wow. I mean, like I say, it's better than stealing it for their own gain. There's a kind of silver lining to it in the fact that they've tried to do it to give to these charities. Or
is it the case, and we've spoke about hackers before, is it the case that the hackers are justifying what they've done by donating this money? It's almost like, well, come on, you can't come after us because we did it for a good cause.
Yeah, I think if they'd wanted to do it in another way, they would have probably moved the funds about, and then it would have potentially gone to these charities from Joe Blogs, and then it wouldn't have looked as suspicious. But if it's
true, isn't it?
You know what I mean? If it was coming straight from these people that had stolen the money or hacked to get the money.
Well, looking at it, they're very, very open about it, and like I said, sort of posting receipts online or on the dark web, as it says on the BBC website, to prove, look what we've done.
So there was obviously some form of agenda there, or a motive. But
you wonder as well the fact that they did it, and it's sort of as far as I'm aware, they're looking at the amounts. It's sort of 10 grand to each of the charities. How much did they keep? Do you think as well? It's
how much?
For them doing all that work just for 20 grand, you think you've probably got a little bit more than that, haven't you?
Taking a bit of cream off the top.
Definitely.
Well, this has got no link to any form of hacking, but I saw a headline the other day about a trailer being dropped. I think I saw this on Twitter actually, and this was before the story came out after, and I'll get to that in a sec. But there was a teaser trailer dropped by Bruce Willis's daughter for Die Hard 6.
Real daughter.
His real daughter.
Yeah.
And I watched this trailer. It was very, very short, probably only about 20 seconds, something like 30 seconds tops. And there he was, John McClane, he was back, and I was thinking, God, he must be too old to do this now.
Yeah.
I mean, the last one, I can't remember what the title for the Die Hard 5 was.
Wasn't it A Good Day to Die Hard or something like
Yes,
that?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I've not seen that one, because that's him and his sort of McLean's son as
That's
such,
it, yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it? Yeah.
Who's his protege? Who's going to probably
Yeah.
be the next one? But yeah, so I was thinking, God, they're still stringing these out. But it turned out, I think it was either a day or two later, it turned out there was a further trailer dropped, and it turned out to all be a big hoax, and it was actually a commercial for batteries.
No way.
He basically smashes through this window of a store, and this store that supply these or sell these batteries. I can't remember what the brand was, but it was still him playing John McClane. So there was a kind of crossover. But
Is he in a white vest?
he weren't in a vest,
Shame.
but he was in the kind of white top and the kind of khaki or it was like a dark brown leather jacket or whatever.
Right.
The image that you think of other than the
Yeah.
vest. I mean, maybe he's a bit too old for the vest now, but I was just thinking. But apparently they are still going to be going ahead and doing a sixth one, but I don't know what the details are. But yeah, it kind of fooled a lot of people, which I thought was good. But it just made me think, like, what's your favourite? Are you a big Die Hard fan?
Yeah, I am. I like, but I love the first two. I think I probably prefer the first one now out of all of them. The second one was okay in the airport. I thought that it worked. I've never seen 3. Weirdly, I've never seen 3. I've seen 4, and I like 4. 4 was all right. 5 I've never seen though, but by that point I've sort of like you said, you think, oh come on, mate,
It's a bit like Stallone as Rambo.
Exactly.
It's just like, oh, mate, you're too old. Like, I love the fact that there is these kind of nostalgic feelings that you have towards these films because they are absolute classics.
Yeah.
We talked about Rambo just there. Even the Alien movies, Rocky films, another Stallone one, but there comes to a point where you can't. It's just not as believable because that character, unless they kind of reboot it.
Yeah, it's like Indiana Jones.
I'm going to say the only one that can get away with it really is Bond because the story is that he kind of gets replaced, I assume.
Yeah, and that's it. It just constantly changes, doesn't it? But yeah, I was just going to say, for me, it was like
Crocodile Dundee. You said
no, I didn't say Crocodile Dundee.
No,
Paul Hogan was always old. So
no, you said Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones, seeing the Crystal Skull, which was number 4, I think. He was just too old, and being dressed up in the same hat and a whip and doing all the same stuff, and you thought, oh come on, that's sort of lost it. But I think, are they doing another Indiana Jones or something like that? I'm sure I read that somewhere.
Maybe.
That'd be terrible. But I like Die Hard. I think it's awesome. But if you think, I think the first one was 87 or something like that. It's really old now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just good films.
If you could reboot it, would you want to see that, or do you just think stick to what it is?
Yeah, because with the reboots, they tend to make them a bit too flashy, don't they? Because it'd be The Rock probably in it, wouldn't it? Guaranteed.
Like a young Bruce Willis.
And he's blown up enough buildings.
Yeah, just extra hench. Final thing from me this week. I actually had a friend, Ryan, who listens to the show. He messaged me about our top 5 games that we talked about, and I think we probably mentioned in there about kind of soundtracks to certain games that just kind of stood out and stick in our minds. And he said to me, if you could pick a favourite soundtrack from a TV show, a movie, or a game, what would it be? And I approached the subject with you, and we said, well, let's have a think, and we'll pick one for each, especially for you, Ryan. So, what are yours? Let's start with for a game, because seeing as we touched upon it before.
So the game is actually one of the ones that I put in the top 5, which is Vice City. I think that was. It was just, for me, it just blew my mind that you could get in a car and you could change the radio and drive around, and it was that experience of being able to set the mood. So if you're, I used to do it. I don't know whether anyone else used to do it. you're driving out around at night, you'd put, you know, some 80s ballad on, like Mr. Mister, Broken Wings, or Cutting Crew, I've Been Waiting for a Girl Like You, like those tunes. Or you could put, there's the electro sort of channel if you're doing a mission and you want something a bit more upbeat, or like, I think was that a heavy metal one, or like a rock one. You could put those on if you was being chased. It was just so cool. And they released those on CD, and I've got one of the sort of Vice City CDs. I think it's the electro one. And yeah, introduced me to so many different songs as well, which I thought was brilliant. I'd listen to something and think, wow, what's this? And then sort of look it up and then be into, you know, discovered a load of songs from it too.
Yeah. I think that's the main thing. Either if it's something that you discover. I mean, I mentioned FIFAs before, which I used to discover so many new songs from bands that I now listen to all the time. Yeah. It's definitely a big plus thing if they can get these new up and coming bands or artists on these games as well for their soundtracks. But for me, and I think I mentioned it as well, mine's got to be Crazy Taxi, and I didn't even own the game. But The Offspring, who were huge then anyway, and I would listen to, and it was just opening me up to songs of theirs that I hadn't heard, and we didn't have Spotify then, so it wasn't as easy to go and hear their whole back catalogue.
And I'm right in thinking with it comes up in the corner who's playing. Yeah. Does it come up on that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes it even better, doesn't it? Because you'll hear something and think, wow, who's this? And just look, and it's there.
Yeah. So that for me.
It set the pace as well for that game as well, I think, didn't it? Because you got that urgency of you get into the cab and you think, oh God, I've got to go now, and I've got to get that fare or whatever.
I can't remember if you mentioned it on the show before, if you just mentioned it to me in passing, but as what I like as well, on platforms like Spotify, you can find the soundtracks for these games now, and TV shows and movies. So it was quite handy for doing.
Yeah.
What about for TV? I'm going to go next.
My TV one isn't. See, I struggle with TV because there are shows which have music all the way through them, and you think like as a soundtrack. And I remember like when being very young and watching programs like the Wonder Years, and they'd have like this signature song, like a normal sort of song, not a theme tune or anything for each show. And watching The Sopranos at the moment as well. You know, thank you to Adam for the heads up with that. There are certain bits where, like, when the episode started, I watched it in season 2, and it had "That Was a Very Good Year" by Frank Sinatra, which I love. It is just such an emotional song, and they set in the beginning of the episode to it. And this is heaven, absolute heaven, experiencing it. But for me, I associate sort of TV with the themes, and I think, you know, certainly again from a nostalgic point of view, the A-Team for me as a theme
song.
Oh God, yeah, you know. So when I was young, I was obsessed with the A-Team and Knight Rider and those sort of things. They all had really strong themes, but the A-Team, even sort of hearing it now, you think, yeah, that's really cool. And I've got the soundtrack. Weirdly, I've got the A-Team soundtrack on CD, which has the theme and then all the incidental music in between as well. It's awesome.
No, that's a good shout, actually. And I struggled a bit with this one. And the only thing I could think of for TV show was an actual soundtrack. And this is going to sound really dreary when I tell you what it is. But it's a soundtrack that I actually looked up on Spotify to play.
Dawson's Creek?
No. Why didn't I think of Dawson's Creek?
Because that had really good music.
That had really good music. So to me, it's about how it made me feel during the show. And the music can often set off different emotions. You could be watching a sad thing, and that music will just make it go that bit more. Yeah. And for me,
it drove me edge.
Yeah, sometimes. But Broadchurch, which was on ITV.
I've never seen it. Heard good things about it, but never watched it.
It's so powerful, and the music was by a Icelandic producer. The name escapes me, and I probably would be able to pronounce it right anyway. No. But it was just, it really set the tone for the TV show, and just the kind of intense kind of obviously it's a little boy gets killed, and they're trying to work out who's killed, and it's a murder
Right.
mystery kind of show. And there was twists and turns, but that music just kind of kept you kind of on the
Yeah.
edge of your seat. It's really weird to describe, but it was
No, I know.
really good as well.
It's a
But
good
just listening to
soundtrack.
it,
Yeah.
and just listening to it afterwards, it was really good. But yeah, that was a bit of a random one for me, and I'm sure Dawson's Creek would have been up there as well. I'll tell you what my movie is, because I want to end with you telling me yours.
Yep.
Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2.
Oh, mate, and why didn't I think of that? 'Cause that is amazing. That is a regular play in this house as
Yeah.
well. So many good songs. Yeah.
The songs on that, I mean, Mr. Blue Sky, that was
Yeah.
one for me. Don't Stop Me Now by Queen was on
Yeah.
there. And Hooked on a Feeling, which I'd never even heard of before watching that. But
Haven't you?
I mean, no,
That's from
no.
Reservoir Dogs.
I haven't seen that film. God.
Shame.
But no, I've seen that film. What I was going to say is I haven't seen that film I reckon I saw that when I was about 15, 16.
I'm questioning everything now because Reservoir Dogs, again, amazing sound. All the Tarantinos have got such good soundtrack. I had Reservoir Dogs on CD and Pulp Fiction and that. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy is so good. Some of the songs on there that I like you said, I had no idea about these songs because the era being 70s.
Yeah, because I mean that was the whole thing, wasn't it? Star-Lord's character had that cassette, the Walkman or whatever, and he's listening to all these old songs from when he was a kid, and that were obviously his mum's. But I think it went hand in hand with the film, like it made the film.
Definitely. It's got that feel, isn't it?
Yeah.
The song I love off that soundtrack, I don't know what it is, but I like Pina Colada.
If you like Pina Colada, that's it. Yeah.
Just the lyrics in that song are hilarious because if you listen to it, he's unhappy with his girlfriend, so he puts an advert in the paper, basically saying, like, I'm looking for a new woman because I don't like my current one.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that his wife applies to the advert, and they realise that actually I do love her, and and it's all
a great song. It's a great song.
Just what would happen if like me or you did that? That's what it's in the song, whatever. You put an advert in paper and agree to meet a woman. You meet them in a restaurant. It turns out to be your wife. There are lots of questions. Yeah, fair enough. You've been caught out, but
you've been caught out as well. You were going to meet up with someone. What's your movie?
My movie, right, is weirdly a film that I've never seen. Yeah, but I love the soundtrack to it, and it's a film called Judgment Night. Which came out in.
I was going to say Judgment Day.
No, Judgment Night. This one, the sequel.
Terminator.
It's not the sequel. It came out in 1993, but at the time, it was around that time where a lot of alternative music was being released on soundtracks to films. So you had The Crow, which had a huge soundtrack and a great film, but the soundtrack has so many sort of classic tunes on it. But what they did for the Judgment Night soundtrack, and I used to read, being into sort of rock and alternative music and stuff, I used to read the magazines like Kerrang, which are like the rock and metal magazines.
Yeah.
And they would talk about soundtrack. It paired big rock stars at the time with big hip hop stars at the time, and got the two together. So you had people like House of Pain, De La Soul, Run DMC, Ice-T, Onyx, all those sort of groups which were really big in hip hop at the time, with Slayer and Faith No More and Sonic Youth and Therapy and Pearl Jam. So it was sort of almost like my two worlds colliding in the middle. And the songs are so good on it. Honestly, check it out. It's just such a good soundtrack. But I never saw the film. I just loved the soundtrack and got into it so much. I remember having it on cassette and like listening it again and again and again on the Walkman. But
so was it a merger? You've kind of got me thinking like Jay-Z and Linkin Park.
No, all original songs.
Wow, that's even better.
Completely original songs that they put the two artists in the studios and did a song each, which or the two particular groups did a song together in the studio, and then that was for the soundtrack. Which makes it even cooler because you've just got a real blend of the two bands as such with it, and it really, really works.
Was there for you a dream scenario there, or
No.
if you could pick two of your favourite bands or artists from either side, who would it be?
I don't know. That's a really tough question, isn't
Next
it?
week, you're
I
answering
think,
that question.
well, no, I think it's probably not the most successful version of sort of. No, see, it's not really my favorite. I was going to say most successful of all time of hip hop and rock would be Aerosmith and Run DMC.
Mm.
Walk This Way,
Yeah,
which was
incredible.
it was a Aerosmith song when they sort of not remixed it, but sort of covered it almost. But
Yeah,
it's good. I don't know. I'll have to think about that.
yeah. Well,
Definitely.
I'll write that down, and that can be one of
Follow
your
up, and I
questions.
will
Yeah,
remember. Definitely. Well, that brings us to the end of another show.
yeah. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching on YouTube. If you do enjoy our stuff, make sure you follow us. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. We're on all social media as well, so make sure you give us a follow on there and hit the like button loads. Keeps us motivated, keeps us going to keep this show going. So, yeah.
And next week is Halloween.
It is Halloween special next week.
Halloween special, which is, well, we'll reveal it at a later date exactly what we'll be discussing, but certainly Halloween themed.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, brilliant.
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Goodbye.